The film begins with enslaved people being taught how to cut sugarcane. One man, Solomon Northup, rides quietly a wagon, watching others work. Later, as the slaves rest in their small shacks, Solomon tries to make ink from blackberry juice to write a letter. Unfortunately, the juice doesn't work. That night, a woman wakes and uses Solomon, seeking comfort. This triggers a memory of his happy life with his wife and children before he was taken, and the title of the film appears. We see scenes from Solomon's life as a free black man in Saratoga. He is a skilled violinist, well respected in his community. One evening, after tucking in his kids, he chats with his wife, who's about to travel with them for work. He jokes about missing her cooking. The next day, while walking alone, he meets a friend who introduces him to two men, Brown and Hamilton. They invite him to travel with them to Washington, D.C., offering a good payment to perform with their show. He agrees, believing he'll return before his family gets back. In Washington, the group dines at a restaurant. Solomon is overpaid and enjoys wine with men, unaware he is being watched. Suddenly, he wakes up in a dark cell, shackled to the floor. Flashbacks reveal the men drugged him and carried him to this hotel, pretending he was just drunk. Now in the cell, Solomon is accused of being a runaway slave from Georgia. He insists he is free, but without proof, he is beaten and thrown into a slave pen. There he meets Clemens, a fellow educated slave, who warns him to stay quiet about his background. A woman named Eliza is brought in with her children, trying to stay strong for them. Soon, everyone is loaded onto a boat and forced into a cramped cargo hold. On board, Robert, another captive, suggests they fight back, but the plan is dropped out of the fear. That night, Eliza is assaulted. Robert tries to stop it, but is killed. Solomon and Clemens are forced to dispose of his body in the river. Clemens grimly says Robert is now at peace. When they dock, Clemens' master retrieves him. Clemens quickly drops his educated act to please his owner, leaving Solomon alone. A trader named Freeman gathers the remaining captives and gives them new names. Solomon is now called Plaid. When he denies it, he is slapped. Freeman shows off the slaves like property, even forcing them to bath in buckets. Inside, Freeman pitches sales to wealthy buyers. One, Mr. Ford, shows interest in Solomon and Eliza. Eliza begs him to buy her children too, but Freeman coldly sells them to others. Ford buys only Solomon and Eliza. She breaks down crying, and Solomon is told to play the violin to lighten the mood. They arrive at Ford's plantation. Eliza cries non-stop, and Ford's wife says a good meal and rest will help her move on. The next day, our new slaves are introduced to Tibbets, a cruel handler, and Chapin, the overseer. Tibbets mocks them with the song as they begin labor. During work, Solomon sports a native musical instrument, reminding him of his old life. Later, Solomon proposes a new idea to Ford, transporting logs by river. Ford is impressed, and the idea works. Tibbets, embarrassed, becomes hostile. As a reward, Ford gives Solomon a violin, but at night, Eliza still weeps. Solomon tries to reason with her, saying Ford is kind compared to others. Eliza argues that Ford knows Solomon is not a slave, but does nothing to help. Eventually, Eliza is sold off because of her constant grief. Tibbets then tries to bully Solomon. A fight breaks out and Solomon wins. Chapin intervenes and warns him not to run. Soon after, Tibbets returns with men to lynch Solomon. They hang him from a tree, leaving him barely able to stand. He stays like that for hours, ignored by everyone. One woman secretly brings him water. Finally, Ford returns and cuts him down. Knowing he can't protect him anymore, Ford sells Solomon to a cruel plantation owner named Edwin Epps. Epps justifies slavery using distorted Bible verses. On his plantation, slaves pick cotton all day. Those who don't meet quotas are whipped. One woman, Patsy, picks more than anyone else. Epps is obsessed with her, and his jealous wife is furious. One night he wakes everyone to dance, forcing Patsy into the spotlight. His wife throws a glass at her face and demands she be sold. Epps refuses, saying he'd rather lose his wife than Patsy. Later, Mrs. Epps sends Solomon on an errand and catches him reading a list. She warns him never to read again. While walking, Solomon considers escaping but sees two men being lynched and decides not to risk it. At the store, he begins secretly collecting paper, hoping to write a letter for help. One day, Epps sends Solomon to another plantation, where Shaw, a more lenient owner, lives with his formerly enslaved wife. Patsy visits for a brief moment of peace. On their way back, Solomon warns her about Epps, who accuses Solomon of making a move on her. Later that night, Epps abused Patsy. His wife slashes Patsy's face in a fit of rage. In deep despair, Patsy begs Solomon to kill her and end her suffering. He refuses. Meanwhile, Epps' cotton crop is destroyed by insects. To cover losses, he rents his slaves to a judge, bringing us back to the opening sugarcane scene. The judge notices Solomon's skills and allows him to earn extra by playing at a party. At the fancy gathering, Solomon is haunted by memories of his past life. Back on the plantation, he sees that Patsy has been beaten again. A white laborer named Armsby joins them. Though he works poorly, he avoids punishment. Solomon, desperate, asks him to deliver a letter in exchange for money. Armsby agrees, but betrays him. Epps confronts Solomon, but thanks to quick thinking, Solomon convinces him that Armsby lied to get a job. Epps believes him, and Solomon burns his letter, losing hope. Later, a new worker named Bass arrives. He is from Canada and strongly opposes slavery. Solomon listens to his views and eventually shares his story. Bass believes him and promises to contact his friend up north. Bass leaves and Solomon waits, unsure if he's been betrayed again. Then one day a carriage arrives. A sheriff calls for Plaid. Solomon answers, and inside is Mr. Parker, a shopkeeper from his hometown. The sheriff questions him briefly, then believes him. Solomon rushes to embrace his friend. Epps is enraged, but the sheriff dismisses him. As Solomon leaves, Patsy calls out. He hugs her one last time before departing. She collapses in sorrow. Solomon returns home. Overwhelmed, he stands at his door before going inside. His family greets him with tears. They are older but overjoyed. His daughter is now married and has named her son after him. They embrace, weeping with joy. Text on screen explains that Solomon tried to sue his kidnappers but failed. He later helped many other slaves